Greetings, fellow Earthlings, and welcome to this tiny harbor, and a special welcome to Keith Upson. I heard you wanted my phone number. No problem. It's 858.
Hey, welcome back. This week we're going to do a little bit more time travel. We're actually going to go back in time to the first day that I ever got my paws onto the 356, and the idea was to try to get the engine running. For your amusement, let's have a look into the future of this video and see how that went. Armed with the book and a tremendous amount of hope, let's see, what do you think? Will it start? So this is a signal red Porsche 356C. It was built in the summer of 1963 in Stuttgart, Germany, and then first sold in America as a 1964 model year. It has had 2 owners from new and currently has about 40,000 miles on it. The last owner died and the car has been sitting here for almost 2 years. The car won't start, and so for the last 2 years these people have been pushing the car around their workshop while trying to find someone to take on the project. On the plus side, the paint and the roof look fairly pretty. I know it has a new 6-volt battery. The downside of that is it sparks like St. Elmo's fire for some reason anytime you connect or disconnect it, which is not good considering it's right next to the fuel tank, which I swear smells like it's leaking. The first mission was to find the kill switch, which after a little gymnastics under the dash, you can see it's that little silver button right there. And so that felt good, but then turning the ignition key and pressing the kill switch still didn't do anything. And so I grabbed a 12-volt battery pack, which apparently you can use a 12-volt battery pack to jump a 6-volt system, just as long as you don't leave it on there for forever. Anyway, ignore the sparks. And so even with that on there, I still didn't get anything out of the car. It was dead as a doornail. At this time, I did begin to wonder why that yellow dangly wire was dangling right next to the ignition switch. And after more under-dash gymnastics, it became apparent that, yeah, that little yellow wire is part of the kill switch. And I figured out that one of those holes in the ignition tumbler was where it came out of. It was just the cleanest one. And I plugged it back in there and turned the ignition and pressed the kill switch again, and it gave a pleasing little cough. Hold on, what's the dog doing? Oh yeah, subscribe now. Delta says thank you. The first couple of turns were painfully slow until the oil started to circulate. We need to make sure that green oil pressure light goes out. Oh, it went out. That's good news. Lovely. Okay. Let's do that all again. Give it some gas. I still don't smell any fuel, but it can take some time to get those carburetors filled from the fuel tank in the front of the car. After cranking it for a while, I thought I'd give the starter motor a break and check to see if everything was hunky-dory in the engine bay. The oil had definitely gone down, so I decided to top it up a little bit, not to the tippy top. I then reconnected the jumper box for round 2, and that's when the fun started. There she is, sounding like a box of bolts. Some puffs of white smoke out of the driver's side exhaust pipe there. Presumably that's unburnt fuel. And then that's all she wrote. Our pretty German mistress says name. I don't know why she gave up the ghost, but I figured something simple like having a look at the spark plugs could tell us something. I didn't expect these odd 21mm spark plugs. They aren't sold locally and they don't fit in a regular spark plug socket. Here was my first attempt at getting them out using a ripped off rubber glove finger. Really, the magic came from using this piece of rubber hose and putting that around the loosened spark plug and using that to put it in and out and just using the socket to tighten it. I ordered some spark plugs online, but for now I'm just going to clean them up with some wet and dry paper and a Scotch-Brite pad. All the spark plugs were pretty dirty, but the ones on the driver's side, cylinders 3 and 4, were particularly bad, and cylinder 3 looks like it had been buried in a bog for most of its life. They cleaned up pretty well, I regapped them and threw them back in. Bit of gas. There we go, chug, chug, chug. Well, she starts. See there that the RPMs aren't doing anything. And that's just the handbrake. Got some fuel. So the gas might be bad as part of it. And we'll see. So I really want it to idle. It won't idle yet, so it might need to be hotter. I don't know. Continuing with the ignition system, I did order a new cap and rotor, but for now I'm just cleaning the contacts on the distributor rotor arm and the distributor cap itself. Here I'm disconnecting the throttle linkage from the carburetors to make them independent. Notice how the accelerator pump on the driver's side does nothing but spit gas. On the passenger side it makes the engine rev up. Then on the driver's side it does magic tricks. I decided I would use this infrared thermometer to see what was going on with the exhausts. And on the passenger side, which is cylinders 1 and 2, those were easily 200 degrees or so on that particular clamp. I clicked around in different places, but as a comparison, 200 degrees. On the other side, cylinders 3 and 4, they couldn't even get up to 100 degrees. And so something is not going bang bang on the driver's side. My next plan was to disconnect one spark plug at a time on the driver's side, cylinders 3 and 4, and see how the car ran. That might tell me if one of them wasn't pulling its weight. To do that, I grabbed the book and started looking up the firing order. Despite the fact that these spark plug wires have the cylinder numbers printed on them, someone had connected cylinders 3 and 4 backwards. Could it really be that easy? Come on, 6 volts. Feel the power. Whoa, Nelly! Now the rev counter works magically. It's like a different car. It's definitely willing to idle now, and so I'm going to disconnect those throttle linkages again to make the carburetors independent from each other. There's still a spit of fuel coming the wrong way out of that carburetor on the driver's side. I think everything is not totally happy in this engine just yet. Though you will notice that pressing the accelerator pump on the driver's side or the passenger side carburetor does make the engine rev up. Sadly, no more magic tricks. Yeah, don't do that. The engine does need to be running. Here, I'm adjusting how much bypass air is allowed through the carburetor synchronizer. That should make the meter less sensitive and stop the engine from dying immediately. The idea here is to try to get the carburetors both pulling about the same amount of air, while at the same time having the idle be where you want it. I'm setting it today at a place where it more or less will run around 1,000. It should be lower than that, but for now, that will work. That adjustment is achieved by tightening or loosening the idle screws that connect the carburetors to the throttle linkage. For now, I just want to drive it a little bit just to see what else is wrong with it, and then also to get it warmed up enough that we can do more stuff with the engine. I did fiddle with the idle bypass screws a little bit just to see where they were at, but for now we're just going to throw the airbox canisters back on. They clamp in place with a 14mm. Then we throw the filters in there and then clamp the little top onto that guy. The passenger side filter is a little different. It does have this oil breather hose that you need to connect, kind of like a prehistoric AOS system. Lifting the rear hatch releases the internal lock mechanism and then it just locks itself. So I'm getting excited now to be driving this cool looking car. But at the same time, some trepidation because somebody did maybe sabotage this car with the whole kill switch thing and then the spark plug thing, unless someone really didn't know which way around they went. What else did they miss? So I made it out to the road. The car is running. It certainly looks beautiful in the sun, and I'm enjoying the smell and the vibe. I can't describe the engine as anything other than angry lawnmower. Sorry, Porsche enthusiasts. I really hope there is something still wrong in the engine bay, because it should be more angry than this, don't you think? The brakes do work. Perhaps they pull a little to the left, but they function. The steering feels like it's connected to the wheels through a chocolate cake. And the suspension has a maritime feel to it. Little queasy. Strange to say though, it's still kind of growing on me. What's happening? Have a listen to the engineer. What do you think? I can't even outrun that bicyclist. What's going on? While this car was made a world away, I think you would agree it does fit quite well with the whole palm tree aesthetic. And even if it doesn't have the right wheels on it yet, it's still so darn pretty. I had to take some pictures.
Over the next few weeks, we'll be learning about the restoration of this vehicle. The easier parts, where it's like a Volkswagen, and the more challenging aspects, the nipple greasing, Deathmobile fire hazard moments. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. See you later.